The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the familiar sound of 1,000 different species conducting business across the stars. Ambassador Kethra of the Vorthon Empire adjusted her crystalline breathing apparatus as she reviewed the latest military reports from the Outer Rim territories. The humans had been causing quite a stir lately, though not in the way most civilizations did when they first joined the galactic community. "Another human colony has requested military advisors," announced General Zixtar, his forearms gesturing dramatically at the holographic display showing Earth's expanding territory. "They claim their Marksmen can provide long-range support for our ground operations against the savage clans." A ripple of amusement passed through the assembled military leaders. The savage clans had been terrorizing the Outer Rim for decades, their brutal ground assaults overwhelming even the most advanced planetary defenses. These weren't simple raiders, but a coalition of warrior species that had perfected the art of planetary conquest through overwhelming force and numbers. "Marksmen?" Commander Velnix of the Arachnid Collective clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his species. "The humans think their primitive projectile weapons can match our plasma artillery? Their longest recorded shots barely exceed 2 kilometers. Admiral Thexros, a towering figure from the silicon-based Crystalline Federation, projected tactical data into the center of the chamber. "Our intelligence suggests human military doctrine relies heavily on something called snipers, single soldiers with enhanced optical equipment attempting to eliminate targets from concealed positions." The laughter grew louder. General Zixtar's species had evolved from pack hunters on a world with crystal-clear atmosphere, giving them natural vision that could spot movement from over 10 kilometers away. The Arachnid Collective possessed compound eyes capable of tracking multiple targets simultaneously across vast distances. The very concept of humans hiding in bushes with crude-scoped rifles struck them as quaint at best. "Perhaps we should humor them," suggested Ambassador Kethra, though her tone suggested she found the idea mildly entertaining rather than strategically sound. "The humans have proven surprisingly resourceful in other areas. Their engineering capabilities, while primitive, show creativity. Maybe their military approach has some merit we haven't considered." General Zixtar accessed the tactical database with a thought, his neural implants interfacing directly with the galactic military network. "According to our records, the largest human military engagement involved approximately 50,000 soldiers on each side. The savage clans typically deploy armies numbering in the millions. Even if these snipers could somehow eliminate one enemy per shot, the mathematics simply don't support their effectiveness on a galactic scale." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Outer Rim. Captain Mordek of the 47th Galactic Defense Fleet appeared as a shimmering hologram, his reptilian features tense with concern. "Generals, we have a situation on Kepler 442c. The savage clans have landed in force, approximately 3 million ground troops with heavy armor support. The colonists are requesting immediate evacuation, but our nearest fleet is still 6 days out." Admiral Thexros studied the tactical display. "What about local defenses? Surely the colony has some protection." "That's just it, sir. There are humans there, about 500 of them, mostly agricultural specialists and miners. They're refusing evacuation and claim they can hold the planet until reinforcements arrive." The silence in the chamber was profound. 500 humans against 3 million savage clan warriors was beyond suicidal. It was mathematically impossible. Even the most advanced galactic species would require at least equal numbers and superior positioning to have any chance against the clans. "Perhaps their primitive brains haven't grasped the scale of the threat," suggested Commander Velnix. 3 million savage clan warriors have never been stopped by anything less than a full fleet bombardment. General Zixtar was already calculating. "Even our most elite Special Forces units maintain a maximum engagement ratio of 1 to 50 under ideal conditions." The humans would need to achieve a ratio of 1 to 6,000 to merely delay the inevitable. "Sir," Captain Mordeck continued, "the human colonial administrator is asking for permission to demonstrate what he calls Earth-style defensive tactics. He specifically requested that we maintain observation satellites but avoid any direct intervention for the first 72 hours. The request sparked heated debate among the military leaders. The Galactic Council had strict protocols about protecting developing civilizations, even ones that had achieved interstellar travel. Allowing 500 humans to face annihilation seemed like a clear violation of their protective mandate. Yet something in the human administrator's tone had caught their attention. There was no panic, no desperate pleading for rescue. Instead, there was a calm confidence that seemed completely at odds with the tactical reality they faced. "These humans," Ambassador Kethra mused, "have they provided any details about their defensive strategy?" Captain Mordeck consulted his tactical display. "Only that they intend to utilize precision engagement protocols and something called advanced fieldcraft techniques. They've also requested detailed topographical data for the entire continent where the clans are landing." Admiral Thexros found this request particularly puzzling. Most species focused on choke points, defensive structures, or fortified positions when facing overwhelming numbers. The humans seemed interested in the entire geographic area, as if they planned to use the landscape itself as a weapon. "Very well," General Zixtar decided after consulting with his fellow commanders. "We'll maintain orbital observation and be prepared for immediate evacuation once the humans realize the futility of their position. This may serve as a valuable lesson about the realities of galactic warfare." As the military leaders dispersed to monitor the situation, none of them noticed the small notation in the human colonial files. Listed under civilian population were several dozen individuals with curious job titles: Range Safety Officer, Precision Shooting Instructor, and Long-Range Competition Champion. These meant nothing to species that had never developed the concept of competitive marksmanship. Down on Kepler 442c, the human colonists were making preparations that would have seemed bizarre to any galactic observer. Instead of building fortifications or massing their limited weapons at defensive positions, small groups of 2 or 3 humans were dispersing across hundreds of square kilometers of terrain. They carried what appeared to be primitive projectile weapons, basic camping gear, and strange optical devices. Sarah Chen adjusted her scope one final time as she settled into her hide approximately 15 kilometers from the main Savage Clan landing zone. Former Olympic shooting champion turned agricultural engineer, she had volunteered for this position despite having spent the last 5 years growing hybrid crops rather than competing at 1,000-meter ranges. "Comms check," whispered Marcus Rodriguez from his position 8 kilometers to her east. The former Marine Scout sniper had traded his military career for mining operations, but his hands still remembered the familiar weight of a precision rifle. "Lima Charlie," Sarah responded, using the old military terminology for loud and clear. Around them, 47 other 2-person sniper teams were settling into positions that their galactic allies would have considered impossibly distant from any meaningful combat zone. The Savage clans began their advance at dawn, confident in their overwhelming numerical superiority. Their species had evolved on a high-gravity world where individual combat was decided by raw strength and ferocity. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the simple strategy of landing massive numbers of warriors and overwhelming any opposition through sheer force. What they hadn't encountered in their centuries of conquest was an enemy that could reach out and touch them from distances they couldn't even comprehend. As the first waves of clan warriors moved across the open plains toward the human settlement, they had no idea that patient eyes were watching them through high-powered scopes from positions so distant that the sound of incoming fire wouldn't reach them for several seconds after impact. The galactic observers monitoring the situation from orbit expected the battle to be over within hours. The mathematical certainty seemed absolute. 500 humans could not possibly stop 3 million advancing warriors, regardless of their tactics or weapons. They were about to learn that humans had spent millennia perfecting the art of making impossible shots under impossible conditions, and that the galaxy's understanding of long-range precision was about to be dramatically redefined. The first shot came at Aero 647 local time, just as the lead elements of the Savage Clan army crested a low ridge approximately 12 kilometers from the human settlement. General Grakthos, commander of the clan's Eastern Assault Force, never heard the report of the rifle that killed him. The tungsten core bullet, traveling at nearly 3 times the speed of sound, struck him center mass with precision that defied the galactic understanding of ballistics. In the orbital command center, alarms began sounding as the tactical displays registered an impossible event. General Zixtar stared at the data readouts, his forearms moving frantically across the control interfaces as he tried to make sense of what the sensors were telling him. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kexral, "we're showing a confirmed kill on the clan commander at grid reference 77 Alpha, but there are no human forces within 10 kilometers of that position." Admiral Thexros materialized beside the tactical display, his crystalline form refracting the holographic light into prismatic patterns. Could it be a sensor malfunction? Perhaps some kind of delayed explosive device? Before anyone could respond, 3 more impossible deaths registered on their screens. Clan officers scattered across a front spanning 20 kilometers were dropping simultaneously, each death occurring at a different location, but all within seconds of each other. The galactic observers watched in growing bewilderment as the pattern repeated every few minutes. Down on the planet's surface, Sarah Chen was already adjusting for her next target. The wind at her position was negligible, but atmospheric pressure readings indicated a weather front moving in from the west that would affect bullet trajectory within the next hour. She methodically recorded wind speed, temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure in her shooting log, calculations that had become as natural as breathing during her years of competitive shooting. "Target acquired," she whispered into her communications device. "Range 2,400 meters. Clan Communications Officer, Center Mass." Her spotter, Dave Park, a former software engineer who had spent his weekends competing in long-range precision shooting competitions, confirmed the target through his high-powered spotting scope. "Wind 00, slight temperature gradient visible. Send it." The rifle fired with a sound that would have been familiar to any human from Earth, but was completely foreign to galactic warfare. Unlike the bright plasma bolts and energy beams favored by advanced civilizations, the tungsten projectile was virtually invisible as it streaked across the battlefield at tremendous velocity. 2.5 seconds later, the clan communications officer collapsed, his command radio destroyed along with his life. Sarah was already working the bolt of her rifle, chambering another round while Dave called out the next priority target from their predetermined list. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out as 48 human sniper teams engaged targets that had no idea they were being hunted. Marcus Rodriguez had just eliminated a clan artillery coordinator from a range of 3,000 meters, a shot that required him to account for the planet's slightly lower gravity and thinner atmosphere compared to Earth. The psychological impact on the Savage Clan forces was immediate and devastating. Their species had evolved as pack hunters on open plains where threats were visible and could be met with overwhelming force. The concept of invisible death striking from impossible distances was outside their psychological framework. Panic began to spread through the clan ranks as officers and key personnel continued to fall with mechanical precision. Orders went undelivered as communication specialists died at their posts. Artillery remained silent as targeting coordinators were eliminated before they could acquire firing solutions. Supply convoys ground to a halt as their leaders fell to shots that came from empty horizons. General Zixtar was frantically consulting his military databases, searching for any precedent that might explain what they were witnessing. The humans must be using some kind of advanced cloaking technology. There's no other explanation for kills at these ranges. Sir, Lieutenant Kexral reported, our deep scan sensors are detecting no energy signatures consistent with cloaking fields. We're also not reading any plasma discharge or particle beam weapons fire. The signatures are consistent with projectile weapons. The silence in the orbital command center was profound. Projectile weapons at ranges exceeding 2 kilometers were considered theoretically possible but practically useless by galactic military doctrine. The time of flight, environmental factors, and targeting difficulties made such shots ineffective against mobile targets. Yet the humans were consistently hitting targets at ranges that pushed the theoretical limits of ballistic trajectories. More disturbing still, they were selecting targets with tactical precision that suggested an understanding of military structure that went far beyond random assassination. Commander Velnix pulled up the casualty analysis on his tactical display. They're systematically eliminating command and control personnel. In the last 2 hours, the clan forces have lost 67% of their senior leadership and 83% of their communications specialists. What the galactic observers couldn't understand was that the humans weren't just shooting at random targets. Each sniper team had spent weeks studying Savage Clan military doctrine, learning to recognize rank insignia, command protocols, and tactical organization. Sarah Chen could identify a clan artillery spotter at 3 kilometers by his equipment and positioning. Marcus Rodriguez could distinguish between a supply coordinator and a regular warrior by subtle differences in their gear and behavior patterns. This was precision warfare elevated to an art form, where each shot was carefully calculated not just for ballistic accuracy, but for maximum tactical impact. The humans weren't trying to kill 3 million warriors one by one. They were systematically destroying the command structure that made 3 million warriors into an effective army. By mid-afternoon, the Savage Clan advance had completely stalled. What had begun as a confident march toward an easy victory had degenerated into a confused mass of leaderless warriors milling about on open ground while invisible death picked off anyone who tried to restore order. Sub-Commander Brexitar, now the highest-ranking surviving clan officer, attempted to rally his forces by moving to an elevated position where his voice could carry across the battlefield. Sarah Chen's bullet found him before he could speak a single word of encouragement to his troops. The replacement commander lasted 14 minutes. His replacement managed 8. By evening, the clan forces had effectively ceased to function as a military unit, reduced to small groups of frightened warriors who had no idea how to proceed without their traditional command structure. In orbit, the galactic military leaders were witnessing something unprecedented in their millennia of recorded warfare. An army of 3 million had been rendered combat ineffective by 500 opponents who had never come within 10 kilometers of direct contact. "How many rounds have they fired?" Admiral Thexros asked, his crystalline form dim with confusion. Lieutenant Kexral consulted the sensor data. "Approximately 450 confirmed shots, sir. Average accuracy rate appears to be 96%. General Zixtar found this statistic particularly disturbing. Even his species' best marksmen, with their enhanced vision and advanced targeting systems, rarely achieved accuracy rates above 70% in combat conditions. The humans were exceeding this performance using what appeared to be primitive optical sights and manual calculations. "Sir," reported Captain Mordek from the planet's surface, "the clan forces are beginning to withdraw to their landing zone. They appear to be requesting immediate extraction." The tactical display showed the retreat in real time. 3 million warriors fleeing from 500 humans they had never seen and could not locate. It was a complete reversal of every military engagement in galactic history, where technological superiority and numerical advantage had always determined the outcome. What the galactic observers still didn't understand was that the withdrawal presented the humans with their greatest opportunity. Moving targets were more challenging than stationary ones, but retreating troops were predictable in their route selection and timing. Sarah Chen adjusted her scope for the longer range as the fleeing clan forces moved across the open ground toward their landing ships. At 4,000 meters, she was pushing the absolute limits of her equipment and skills, but the mathematics of ballistics were universal regardless of what planet you were on. The bullet flight time at that range was over 6 seconds, requiring her to predict not just where her target was, but where he would be when the bullet arrived. She had learned this skill shooting at moving targets during Earth's long-range competitions, but had never imagined applying it on an alien world against retreating alien armies. As night fell, the human sniper teams continued their methodical work, turning an organized withdrawal into a panicked rout. The savage clans, who had never known defeat in their centuries of conquest, were experiencing something completely outside their understanding of warfare. The humans, meanwhile, were simply doing what they had trained their entire lives to do: make impossible shots under impossible conditions, one carefully aimed bullet at a time. 3 days after the savage clan forces had retreated in complete disarray, emergency sessions were being held in military headquarters across the galaxy. What had happened on Kepler 442c wasn't just an unexpected victory. It was a complete paradigm shift that threatened to overturn centuries of established military doctrine. Admiral Thexros stood before the assembled Galactic Defense Council, his crystalline form projecting tactical data that still seemed impossible even after detailed analysis. The humans achieved a strategic victory using tactics that our best military theorists classified as obsolete over 1,000 years ago. General Zixtar activated a 3-dimensional battlefield reconstruction that showed the engagement from multiple angles. 500 human colonists, using what can only be described as primitive kinetic weapons, neutralized an army that has successfully conquered 47 worlds over the past century. The assembled representatives from across the galaxy studied the data with growing unease. The savage clans had been more than just raiders. They represented a genuine threat to galactic stability. Their defeat should have required massive fleet actions and the combined forces of multiple species. Instead, a group of human farmers and miners had accomplished what entire star fleets had failed to achieve, using nothing more than precisely aimed bullets and an understanding of warfare that seemed to transcend technological advancement. Commander Velnix brought up detailed analysis of the human shooting techniques. Our forensic teams have examined the battlefield extensively. The average engagement range was 2.7 kilometers, with confirmed kills recorded at distances up to 4.2 kilometers. These ranges exceed our theoretical models for effective kinetic weapon deployment. What disturbed the galactic military leadership even more was the precision with which the humans had selected their targets. Post-battle analysis revealed that they had somehow identified and eliminated key personnel with an accuracy that suggested detailed intelligence on clan military structure. "How did they know?" asked Ambassador Kethra, her breathing apparatus cycling rapidly in agitation. How did agricultural colonists possess detailed knowledge of savage clan command protocols and tactical organization? The answer, when it finally emerged from human sources, was perhaps the most unsettling revelation of all. The humans hadn't possessed any special intelligence about the clans. They had simply observed the enemy forces through their scopes and made educated guesses based on universal military principles they had learned through centuries of human conflict. Sarah Chen, now being interviewed by the galactic military establishment, explained the process with matter-of-fact simplicity that made seasoned generals uncomfortable. "You watch how they move, how they carry themselves, what equipment they have. Officers stand differently, communicate more, carry different gear. It's the same on every world, with every species. The principles don't change. Marcus Rodriguez added his perspective during his debriefing. We spent the first day just watching them, learning their patterns. Military hierarchies work pretty much the same everywhere. Take out the decision makers, and the whole system falls apart. This casual approach to tactical analysis represented a completely different philosophy of warfare than anything the galaxy had previously encountered. Most species relied on technological superiority, overwhelming firepower, or numerical advantage. The humans had instead focused on understanding their enemy and applying precision at exactly the right points to achieve maximum effect. But perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of human military doctrine was their approach to individual marksmanship. Every human sniper team had years of experience with precision shooting, not as professional soldiers, but as competitors and enthusiasts who had pursued accuracy as a challenging hobby. Dave Park, Sarah's spotter, revealed during his interview that he had been shooting competitively since he was 12 years old. On Earth, we have competitions where people shoot at targets the size of dinner plates from over a kilometer away. We do it for fun, to see who can be most accurate under different conditions. This concept was alien to galactic military thinking. Most species train their soldiers to operate advanced weapon systems with computer-assisted targeting. The idea that individuals would spend decades perfecting their ability to manually aim and fire projectile weapons seemed like a primitive waste of time. Yet the results spoke for themselves. The human colonists had achieved accuracy rates that exceeded the performance of the galaxy's most advanced targeting computers, and they had done it while operating under battlefield stress conditions that would have degraded most technological systems. General Zixtar found himself questioning fundamental assumptions about military effectiveness. Our weapons can accurately strike targets at planetary distances, but they require massive energy expenditures, sophisticated targeting systems, and industrial infrastructure. These humans accomplished strategic objectives with weapons that can be manufactured in basic machine shops. The implications were staggering. If human-style marksmanship could be replicated and scaled up, it would revolutionize galactic warfare by making every individual soldier potentially capable of strategic impact. A single well-trained marksman could potentially neutralize key targets that might otherwise require orbital bombardment or massive ground assaults. Within weeks, recruitment teams from across the galaxy were arriving at human colonies, seeking to understand and acquire the skills that had made the defense of Kepler 442c possible. They found a surprising abundance of qualified instructors among the human civilian population. Retired military personnel who had continued practicing their marksmanship skills, competitive shooters who had spent decades perfecting their craft, and even hunters who had developed extraordinary abilities in fieldcraft and long-range accuracy. Skills that humans considered routine hobbies were suddenly valued as strategic military assets. Sarah Chen found herself appointed as the first director of Galactic marksmanship training, tasked with developing curricula that could teach alien species the fundamentals of precision shooting. The challenge was significant, as most galactic species had evolutionary adaptations that were either advantageous or disadvantageous for this type of warfare. The arachnid collective's compound eyes made range estimation difficult, but their steady appendages and natural patience made them excellent at maintaining stable shooting positions. The Vorthon Empire's enhanced vision was perfect for target identification, but their high-strung nervous systems made consistent accuracy challenging. Marcus Rodriguez established the first interspecies sniper academy on the moon of Titan VII, where representatives from dozens of worlds came to learn techniques that humans had been developing for centuries. The academy's motto, suggested by a former human Olympic shooter, became legendary across the galaxy: one shot, one kill, one chance to change history. The most profound change, however, was in galactic military doctrine itself. The easy assumption that technological advancement always trumped individual skill had been shattered by 500 humans with manually operated rifles. Military academies across the galaxy began incorporating human-developed concepts of fieldcraft, camouflage, and precision engagement into their core curricula. The savage clans, meanwhile, had effectively ceased to be a galactic threat. Word of their defeat had spread throughout the Outer Rim territories, and their mystique of invincibility had been completely destroyed. Colonies that had previously lived in terror of clan raids now knew that with proper training and preparation, even overwhelming numerical odds could be overcome. 3 years after the Battle of Kepler 442c, as military historians had begun calling it, General Zixtar stood once again before the Galactic Defense Council. This time, however, his report carried a very different tone. The integration of human marksmanship doctrine into our military forces has exceeded all expectations, he announced. Casualty rates in ground engagements have decreased by 73%, while mission success rates have improved by 89%. More importantly, the strategic impact of precisely trained individuals has reduced our reliance on orbital bombardment and large-scale ground assaults. The transformation wasn't complete, and it would never be universal. Many conflicts still required massive fleets and overwhelming firepower. But the galaxy now understood that sometimes the most effective weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the most advanced technology. Sometimes it was simply one person with a rifle, the skill to use it accurately, and the patience to wait for exactly the right moment to change the course of history. The humans, for their part, continued to view marksmanship as they always had. A challenging skill that required constant practice, careful attention to detail, and respect for the incredible precision that was possible when technology and human capability worked together in perfect harmony. As Sarah Chen often told her alien students during training sessions, "The rifle doesn't make the shot, the scope doesn't make the shot, the person behind the rifle makes the shot. Everything else is just tools to help you do what you've trained yourself to do." It was a lesson that the galaxy would remember for millennia to come, long after the last savage clan warrior had surrendered and the Outer Rim territories had found peace under the protection of marksmen who could reach out and touch targets from impossible distances with impossible precision. The age of human snipers had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.